Welcome back to the Cable Data Science channel. It's it's Saturday, October the 17th, and it's time for me to run my weekly US COVID-19 deaths projection. I'm going to try to guesstimate the number of deaths by February 1st, 2021. That number is based in part on this page right here from the Washington University's Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation. So this model has been updated October 15, 2020, and they are saying that by February 1st, 2021, the U.S. will have 389,087 deaths. And what's interesting is they actually lowered this number from 394,000 last Friday, which is kind of curious, I think. I also want you to notice what they say right here. And this is because this is true of all diseases. We're talking heart disease, cancer. All these diseases are measured by deaths and not by cases. Okay? This is the best indicator of progression in a pandemic, although there is generally a 17 to 21 day lag between infection and death. Okay? Now, here is the projection. Notice this is a pretty smooth curve. They're actually using some form of smoothing technique to reduce the volatility so that we can see the underlying trend. We can see what cases and deaths are actually doing, or the increasing or decreasing on a daily basis. So this is pretty much the spike back here on April 15, 2020. Says there was an observed 22,316 deaths. Now the word observed is kind of interesting, but we'll let that alone for right now. But regardless of whether it's observed or confirmed or whatever, the pattern is same. There's a clear downward pattern. Okay, a clear downward pattern. Now for some reason they're actually projecting. A lot of these projections of organizations are based on the fact that if nothing else changes, these numbers are going to increase. Well, my model is actually based on the assumption that nothing changes. Human nature. I'm betting on the fact that human nature doesn't change, and the people who are going to wear a mask will continue to wear masks, and the people who don't wear masks are continue to not wear masks. That's my assumption. Okay. Now, like I say, look at this curve because you're going to see it again in here in just one moment. Okay? So now let's take a look at my latest model, version 2. Okay? Okay, so here we go. First we look at the cumulative total cases and the cumulative total deaths. The cumulative total is the total number of deaths between day one and any point along the line. And we know it's a cumulative because it goes up. A cumulative plot is, like I say, it's the total number of cases of death from day one up until any point along the line. Now, because it's always the added numbers up, it should never go down. It can flatten. Remember the expression flatten the curve back in the spring? But what happened to the curve flattening back in the spring here? It's been completely overwhelmed by the increasing cases. Same way with deaths. Okay? Now, if I wanted to spread fear and anxiety among the American people, I would only talk about the total. I would talk about the grand total. I would talk about these two plots here. Then I'd tell you there's X number of cases and X number of deaths today, but I would neglect to mention that the deaths have been declining since April 12th. Now let's take a look at the projection itself. We are currently, my model is based on a very simple principle. That is the average number of deaths, COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. a day. And that number currently stands at 942. Now these numbers here are the record of all the models projections made by Washington University's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. You can see last week these said 394,000, but for some reason they lowered this to 389,000. Okay. Now my model for the rest of the year is November 1st, 2033, 706 plus or minus 5%. By December 1st, 261,895 plus or minus 5%. And by January 1st, 291,151 plus or minus 5%. Now let's look at the daily numbers. So this is the daily numbers. for cases. It's pretty much been going continuously upward since March 1st. We had a slight decline here. Then the second spike is even higher. Now we're on our way to a third spike. Now here's my question for you. Where is the death associated with this spike right here? If we say a 21-day incubation period is max, that means anything beyond 21 days is already come and gone. Those deaths should have already been accounted for. Okay? Now let's look at the deaths. First of all, let's look. So in order to reach that 389,000 deaths by February 1st, we had to average 1,578 deaths per day. We're currently averaging 942 deaths per day. If we take that 942 deaths per day and extend it out to February 1st, it gives us 320,360 deaths by February 1st, 2021. Okay? Plus or minus 5%. That's a significant difference between 389,000. Okay? Now, also at this point, I want to remind you of what George Fox, a well-known statistician of the 20th century, said. He said all models are wrong, but some are useful. Now, the question, of course, is going to be which model is going to be wronger, mine or which university? Which number is going to be the furthest or closest to the actual number? Okay? It's going to be interesting to see. Now, let's take a look at our first detail plot. Once again, well, this is wrong. The red line is the current average of 942 deaths per day on average. The green line is what we have to reach by February 1st, 2021 in order to get 389,000. Look at all the days underneath that line so far. Every day that we miss this green line right there, those numbers means that the daily average has to go up. Okay? Let's look at a slightly different method. You remember I mentioned the smooth curve back in the on the web page? Well, this is basically my version of that plot. You see, it pretty much eliminated all the volatility, but you can still see the spike back in April followed by the continuing decline. Okay. Once again, the red line is my number, is the average, the 942 deaths per day average as of October 17th. This is, once again, is the line we had to reach, the 1,579 deaths per day in order to have reached 389,087 deaths by February 1st. Now, my message for you today is it's working. Okay? Obviously, declining deaths means something we're doing is working. So what I'm saying is continue to wear masks, continue to practice social distancing, and continue to shelter in place when it's possible. Deaths are declining. Okay? So anyway, thanks so much for your time for today, and we'll catch you on the next report.